Hello, my name is Chris Doud. I'm a field agronomist for Pioneer in southwest Iowa. Here today to talk with you a little bit about the trend of early planted soybeans and what we've seen over the course of the last decade of many farmers beginning to plant earlier in terms of the soybean planting window. Want to just talk a little bit about the theory behind that. So if you think about it, earlier planted soybeans tend to have the advantage of building a bigger photosynthetic factory and actually extending their overall photosynthate collection period. And what we also see is in a reproductive stage of development, those beans also tend to have a wider period from start to finish versus mid to late planted soybeans. So earlier planted soybeans will oftentimes flower a good week or more in advance if we have favorable growing conditions moving into that front half of the growing season. And so that's an important aspect to take into consideration of the real reason behind we see a nice response oftentimes in relation to soybean maturity and that factor of planting date. Now we know that growing conditions is a big factor in relation to having favorable growing season environment for moisture and sunlight, but there are management practices that have also allowed us to take a step in the direction of earlier planted soybeans, such as soybean seed treatments, such as things that we offer through our Pioneer PPST offering, are things that can help us offset the risk related with certain pathogens that are prevalent in the soil, such as Phytophthora, Rhizoctonia, Fusarium, and Pythium. Phytophthora in particular is one of the largest yield-robbing pests that we have across the country, and a new product from Pioneer this year that is a standard treatment on our PPST is called Lumicina, and that actually gives us a greater than 1 bushel bump over the standard treatment of the past, and just greater assurance that that stand that we plant will have a greater likelihood of success once all those plants push through the soil line and become established. We do want to highlight the potential risk related with early planted as well. We do know that soybeans growing point is immediately exposed once they come through the surface, so a killing freeze in the spring could have potential risk in relation to stand establishment and overall stand count. We also know some years lend themselves to having greater risks of sudden death syndrome in southwest Iowa and throughout the Midwest. That is one thing that early planting can expose beans to a greater risk of sudden death infection just after planting, though there are ways to manage that risk with products such as Olivo that not only provide the springtime potential benefit, but also some duration past the spring season for protection of a disease that's also a common threat across the Midwest. So if you have any other questions in relation to agronomic product or management practices, be sure and talk to your local Pioneer sales rep this spring about this and other questions you may have.